Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Green, here for Todd Talk Sports. And I just wanted to take a few minutes this evening and talk a little bit about the Karl Scott situation. We found out, of course, earlier today that Coach Karl Scott is now a member of the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff, and that leaves Nick Saban with a hole to fill, no doubt about it. A couple of different ways that could go. Would we look for another cornerback coach? Could we possibly look at moving someone to cornerbacks coach and hiring an inside linebacker coach perhaps? We'll talk a little bit more about that, and I'll give you a couple of names of some guys that at least I would like to see targeted as replacements for Coach Karl Scott. We'll get started in this evening's episode of Todd Talk right now. Never, ever like to lose a guy, of course, like Coach Karl Scott, but best wishes to him. He got an opportunity in the National Football League, so he did what he had to do, I guess. Nick Saban and Alabama now have a hole to fill. I want to start this episode out same way we usually do, with a question for our viewers. Get in the comment section right now and let me know what you think. Will Karl Scott leaving Alabama affect Nick Saban and Alabama's recruiting efforts? Y for yes, N for no, and I'll post this down in the comment section. I can't wait to see what you all think about that. All right, moving right along here. Karl Scott gone, Minnesota Vikings doing his thing. Much respect, got to replace him. Talked a little bit in the introduction about there's a couple of different ways that Nick Saban can move right now, depending upon what he wanted to do. I think the logical answer here would be to just hire another cornerback coach, right? But you got to look at least the possibility that maybe he could move Pete Golding from defensive coordinator and inside linebackers coach to defensive coordinator and cornerbacks coach, and look for a new inside linebacker coach. And I could see it going either way. I think probably for whatever reason, Nick Saban really seems like he supports Pete and just really, really likes the guy. So I think, as far as, at least in my opinion, Nick Saban will look to just hire another cornerback coach. I think I've got 2 or 3 pretty good names that I'm going to share with you all here in just a few minutes. But before we get into all that, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I don't know what you're waiting on. We're trying to take our YouTube channel to 10,000 subscribers, and I know we can get there just as surely as the tide will roll. If you'll hit that subscribe button for me right now, I certainly would appreciate it. All right, now, looking at a couple of names that could potentially replace Karl Scott if Nick Saban decided to hire a cornerback coach to replace him. The first call that I make is to Derrick Ansley. I have been a vocal proponent of getting Coach Ansley back to Tuscaloosa by whatever means for the past few years now. Big fan of Derrick Ansley. I think he's a fantastic position coach, and he's a proven recruiter, somebody that could come right in, and I believe Alabama may not miss a beat if they were to replace Karl Scott with a guy like Derrick Ansley. Another name that I'm at least hearing some chatter about, a guy that's actually already on the staff at Alabama. I believe he's our director of player personnel or something to that effect, Sam Petito. Sam is a guy from Louisiana. He's a guy that recruits that were from the Louisiana seem to really like. In fact, he played a big role when he was at Georgia in getting Devonta Smith to commit to Georgia, and back at Alabama in a off-the-field type role, but definitely a guy that has some experience. I believe he'd be a really good recruiter, and he's somebody that you've already got in the house. If Nick Saban wanted to promote from within, I think Sam would be a really good answer for losing a guy like Coach Karl Scott, especially with his ties to the state of Louisiana. Now, One more name that I want to at least mention to you all here before we start to wrap everything up. And before I let you know who that is, I need to tell you a little bit about what we've got going on at ToddTalkSports.com. We're under construction, but we're really, really excited. We have a completely redesigned website. I guess, in my opinion, it's as good as anything else in the game at this point. You can check out our new homepage now at ToddTalkSports.com, and hopefully here in the next few days, everything else will be live as well. We'll have a user forum where Alabama fans can talk to one another, post and ask questions to me, Stacy Blackwood, Jake Thomas, and the rest of the gang over at Todd Talk Sports. Looking forward to that, no doubt about it. But we've got a lot of stuff planned for 2021. Todd Talk Sports wants to be your number one news source for Alabama athletics. That's right, all things Crimson Tide, comprehensive coverage without ever charging you a subscription fee. ToddTalkSports.com. So check us out. Got some things lined up for you all here on the Alabama Football News and Rumors channel as well. Got a new live show in the works. Myself and our newest member, Jonathan Sanford, will be bringing you that, hosting that show for you, Tide Talk Live. You'll be able to call in and join the discussion live, and we'll be talking, of course, all Crimson Tide all the time. Alabama athletics is what we do. Some big-time stuff coming up for you here on the YouTube channel. All right, so I told you before we got around and got into all that I had one more name that I wanted to mention as a possible replacement for Coach Karl Scott, and that is Deshay Townsend. Now, this is a name that Alabama fans should readily recognize. Deshay, of course, graduated from the University of Alabama, a great defensive back in his own right, had a successful NFL career as a defensive back, and currently is the secondary coach for the Chicago Bears in the NFL. I think along with Sam Petito and Derrick Ansley, a guy like Deshay Townsend would probably be, in my opinion, the three that made the most sense as potential replacements for Coach Karl Scott. Now, before we wrap this thing all the way up tonight, I got to talk just a little bit about what this means for Alabama losing a coach like Karl Scott. All right, so after Coach Huff went to Marshall, we lost Jeff Banks, Flood, all of those guys ran off to Texas with Steve Sarkisian. Karl Scott was really our ace recruiter on the staff, and really the only one that we knew for sure we had left. I think the new position coaches that we've hired, Coach Gillespie and Coach Graham, are elite recruiters in their own right, but they'll need a little bit of time to get rolling. I'm no doubt about that. Really, I think every coach in a new situation does. But losing a guy like Karl Scott definitely hurts. Karl was a guy that could recruit and close the deal on five-star prospects, and that's what it takes to stay on top and stay way far out ahead of the competition like the University of Alabama football program is right now. But Alabama will be all right. I heard Blake Brockemeyer, Tommy and James Brockemeyer's dad, and I'm not going to quote him because I'll mess it up. I know something along the lines of, he said that a graduate assistant could have recruited his boys to Alabama. As long as Nick Saban is there, they win championships, they prepare young men for life, and they get young men to the NFL. So basically, even losing Karl Scott, I'm 100% sure Alabama will be just fine. Got some new, young, elite coaches, position coaches, recently hired in, Coach Gillespie and Coach Graham. I think Bill O'Brien and Coach Marone will come into their own as well out on the recruiting trail. When you have that script A on your chest, it helps a whole lot, no doubt about it. Wanted to just take a few minutes tonight, talk about a couple of different ways replacing Karl Scott could go, and give you a few names that I was at least looking for as potential replacements. Appreciate you joining us this evening here on the Alabama Football News and Rumors channel presented by Chat Sports. I'm Ricky Green, and we'll see you next time. Roll Tide.